protecting society on the one hand, and also protecting a detained individual's constitutional rights on another hand. The uncertainty, though, with regard to how long we're not going to be able to have jury trials in New Jersey really remains to be seen. And so it's difficult to see how that scale is going to be balanced and whether or not it's going to tip to one side or the other at some point in time. But for now, the guidance that we've gotten from the court this week is that, we're going to continue remote proceedings to the extent that we can. Monday's order basically says, look, there's going to be some proceedings that, certain proceedings that you're going to need consent of both parties for. But to the extent that we can keep things moving, and again, they've handled 12,000 court events remotely in the last month with over 18,000 participants. So the courts in New Jersey are doing a really good job of trying to keep things moving. Now they're adding the municipal courts, trying to see if we can get some movement on municipal court cases. That's all great. And that's a good thing to keep these cases moving and keep the criminal justice system moving during this pandemic. Unfortunately, there's not a lot that you can do with regard to defendants that are detained without bail, because you can't have grand jury proceedings and you can't have jury trials. And so, this order is saying, all right, look, it's not looking like we're going to get back into court this week or next. So we are ordering that the time, at least through May 31st, is going to be excluded.
To clarify, that refers to they can't count that time as anything towards the 180 days or the 2-year limits. This chunk of time, which is now 80-something days overall, related to the court shutdown in New Jersey, related to the coronavirus pandemic. This creates a roughly 80-day window that essentially adds to time the accused may be incarcerated or may have to wait to get their speedy trial.
Correct. That's exactly right. All right. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, what was the order issued on 4/20 in New Jersey?
Okay, so the order that came out on April 20th is basically the next in a series of order giving attorneys and litigants in New Jersey guidance on how to handle criminal justice in light of COVID-19. So basically, this order talks about 3 different things. It talks about giving further guidance on how these remote proceedings are going to continue. It gives guidance on which matters are going to be live streamed, and it gives guidance on options that the judges have when sentencing certain defendants to sentences that include county jail sentences. The interesting thing is, the one thing it's silent about is how the courts are going to address detained individuals who are being held on criminal matters without bail after April 26th. So that's the one thing it's silent on. And I would say that, essentially in the past month, most, if not all, court matters have been held via Zoom or telephonically or through a program that is run through NJ Courts called Virtual Courtroom. It goes on to talk about how certain court proceedings, you need the consent of both parties in order to proceed by way of either video or telephone. And it makes sense. The proceedings that you need consent of both parties include sentencings, include adjudications in juvenile proceedings. So the term adjudication in a juvenile proceeding is really the same thing as a sentencing. So any type of sentencing is going to be heard, has to be heard with consent of both parties if you're going to do it remotely. Any evidentiary hearings. So evidentiary hearings, including bench trials in criminal matters, and any type of municipal matter that would potentially include like a loss of license or any type of jail time, need consent of both parties. Any type of hearing that would include termination of parental rights, or any type of hearing that would include like an adjudication of incapacity or the appointment of a permanent guardian. Again, you're going to need the consent of both parties in order to proceed in that fashion. So as long as you have consent of both parties, you can basically conduct any type of proceeding except for jury trials and grand jury selections.